Welcome everyone to today's office hour. Okay, Sammy Bloom here. If you're here and you're ready for today's section, just let me get some reply on the chat box if you can hear me. Just want to be sure everybody can hear me. Can you hear me? Today, like I said, we'll be going through some things about Node.js, doing some introduction to Node.js, basically covering everything that happens under the hood when it comes to Node.js. Okay, so I want you guys to. It's going to be a pretty fast presentation, so I just want you to listen attentively and then let's see what we can achieve within this short time. Okay. Okay, so at the end of this presentation, these are the following things we aim to achieve. Okay, at the end of this presentation. Okay, number one is to know what Node.js means. Okay, that is a typo. To know what Node.js means, to know how Node.js works, then we'll go into the applications of Node.js and then the advantages of Node.js. Okay, so come with me to this journey. So we'll go to the introduction. Number one is Node.js is an open source and cross-platform JavaScript runtime environment. It is, when you say it's open source, it means that basically you and I can contribute to Node.js. If peradventure, as we're learning or as you're coding, and then you encounter some things that about Node.js that you feel could be made better, could be made simpler. Okay, you could edit, go through the process, the GitHub process of cloning, that whole process of contributing to open source. You have to fork the repo, clone the repo, work on what you have, push it to your already forked repo, and from your forked repo, you basically try pushing to the main Node.js repository, but then it has to be approved, it has to be merged. Okay, they call it, you have to create a pull request basically to the main Node.js project, and if it is approved by the people handling the repo, fine, it gets, and that's how Node.js improves on the daily basis. On a daily basis, Node.js is improving because it's open source that people all over the world that can work on it. I can work on it, you can work on it. Node.js is free, you don't need to pay any amount to any money to be able to start using Node.js. It's available to everybody on the web. Node.js runs on various platforms. Basically, it can run on Windows, it can run on Linux, Unix, Mac OS, and even other platforms that are not mentioned here. Okay, Node.js also uses JavaScript. It's basically JavaScript on the server. I've said this before, but Node.js is basically JavaScript on the server. Okay, we'll just proceed from here. So this is a basically, like I said, JavaScript on the server. Now let's look at JavaScript. Basically, this is a simple, let's say, organogram or a simple diagram that just shows how JavaScript is. Okay, so JavaScript is divided into client-side JavaScript, server-side JavaScript. And you have JavaScript as a language which can be used in the client-side JavaScript, but basically you have client-side JavaScript and server-side JavaScript. Now, Node.js belongs to the server-side JavaScript, okay? Server-side JavaScript is the use of JavaScript language on servers. You know, those computers are always on, and maybe, okay, basically a server is like it's a server basically is a computer, okay, on that person's computer somewhere in the planet, okay. My laptop can be a server if I choose it to be, but then it's going to be a very, really slow server because of the space, basically the storage I have, both RAM and ROM that I have on my system is going to be a really slow server. But basically, a server is a computer somewhere else. Okay, so when you hear cloud, when you hear things like server, when you hear things like cloud, it's a computer. Okay, so it's like those computers are always on, I mean, they're running stuff, doing all kinds of work. Okay, so that's basically what a server is. So we'll just go to the origin of server-side JavaScript. Okay, so you see in the beginning of the web, it was all static. Okay, we had the static web pages, both for front end and for the server side. It was basically static, no interactions whatsoever. You come, they display the information for you, you scroll when you're done, you click to go to the next page, and you just, you know, it's just next page, static, no interaction whatsoever. But there's a man named Brendan Each. Okay, I don't know how to pronounce that, his surname, but Brendan Each. I don't pronounce it like that. He worked in a company called Netscape, and he was tasked with creating a scripting language that can add interactivity to the Netscape Navigator browser. Okay, so he basically embarked on this task, and yes, he produced results. And as we proceed further in this little lecture, okay, we would see the effects of Brendan Each's would I call it invention? Yes, we'll see the repercussion of his invention on JavaScript, the modern JavaScript that we have. Okay, so the language will be created to compete with similar the scripting language that Brendan Each was supposed to invent or to make, was supposed to compete with a similar scripting language called JavaScript of the same era. Okay, so it was in the 90s, yes, and it was supposed to compete with JavaScript of the same era. It's supposed to basically do basic validation on an input form, okay, and do something when a button is clicked. Okay, when a button is clicked, we want to do something, not just flipping to a page, another page, but basically do something worthwhile. Okay, that's when the whole JavaScript scripting things that coming to bear, even in the development world. Okay, so there's some fun facts I want you to know about Node.js. Okay, number one is Node.js app runs in the V8 JavaScript engine. That's the core of Google Chrome outside of the browser. So one of the reasons JavaScript as a language uses V8 engine, and that's why if you're coding using JavaScript, anything JavaScript, React.js, JavaScript itself, Node.js, one of the things that you will discover is that you could easily access the web, your web browser, using JavaScript, basically when you run your program. So let us say you run your program, it automatically just shows with an IP address, basically localhost / 8100 or localhost / something, you know. But if numbers 800, 8000 or 8100, that's what I call 8100. Okay, this is because JavaScript uses a V8 engine. Okay, and another fun fact about Node.js is Node.js app runs in a single process. Okay, people, because of the speed of Node.js, people often make this mistake that Node.js works in a multi-process, uses a multi-process architecture, but no, it uses a single process architecture. It runs in a single process without creating a new thread for every request. Okay, Node.js provides a set of asynchronous I/O primitives. I/O means input output primitives in its standard library that prevent JavaScript code from blocking, and general libraries in Node.js are written using non-blocking paradigms, making blocking behavior the exception rather than the norm. Okay, so you have when you have a JavaScript process basically, and if one of the JavaScript process is not working, because it's a single process, you will think, okay, that JavaScript process will hinder another JavaScript process from Node.js process, sorry, from running. But that's not the case. What it does, it uses a non-blocking paradigm. So make sure that no process is blocked because of the amount of time a process is taking is taking. No matter the amount of time the process is taking, it does not block other processes from running. Okay, so everything can run concurrently, but in a single process. Okay, yes, it can run task asynchronous. It provides a set of asynchronous input output primitives. Yes, asynchronously. Another thing we would, if you're with me, you can just put, I don't know if you can hear me, you can still hear me, but I would like to get some response as we proceed. Another thing, fun fact about Node.js is that it provides a set of, like I said, asynchronous input output primitives. Okay. Node.js uses the same JavaScript as client-side JavaScript. Well, so basically, if you know the JavaScript for front end, client side, front end. Okay, basically, if you know that JavaScript, you know the JavaScript for Node.js. It's the same JavaScript. It's not like there are two different JavaScripts. So let's note that it uses the ECMA script, that's European Computer Manufacturers Association script standards. And this is where what Brendan Each did comes into play. What Brendan Each did was to create a form of standards where, okay, see both syntax and the syntax of the way of the scripting was basically made. Syntax and semantics, they were being made. So Node.js adheres basically to this standard. It uses this ECMA script standard. Okay. It's a standardized specification of a scripting language developed by Brendan Each of Netscape. Initially, it was named Mocha, then it was named LiveScript, and finally, it's now named JavaScript. Okay. How does Node.js work? Okay, very important question. How does Node.js work? So first and foremost, let's just look at a web application. A web application is a program that runs on a server. It is rendered by a client browser using the internet to access all the resources of that application. So Google can be a web application. Let's say Google web application. So the program Google runs on a server. What you see in the client side or in the front end is what is rendered as a result of what is happening in the server. Something for the user to be able to interact with. Okay, that's what you see as in the front end, and a user can be able to interact with what runs on the server using the internet to access all the resources of the application that's running on the server. Okay. So a web application is divided into three parts. We have the client, we have the server, and we have the database. Okay, I'll be explaining the three parts shortly. Okay, so the client, I think I will just okay. So I will just the first diagram, we're looking at the first diagram, okay? So a client is the user that interacts with the front end part of a web application. If that's the client side, the front end is usually developed using languages like HTML, CSS, styles. You have Bootstrap, along with extensive usage of JavaScript frameworks like React, JS, Angular JS, which will help the application in the design of the application, basically. So that's the client. So basically, the client is you, me, okay, in simple terms. Now, the server is responsible for taking the client's request. So I fill a form, a sign-up form, and I click on sign up. Okay, so it is the server that is responsible for taking this request. By the time I click on sign up, the request goes to the server. The server takes in the request, perform the required task, and send the responses back to the client, okay, back to me, basically. It acts as a middleware between the front end and the stored data to enable operations on the data by a client, okay. We have different, you have Node.js, PHP, and Java are the most popular technologies we use to develop and maintain a web server. Okay, we have Node.js, we have PHP. For Java, we have Spring. I think no, we have for Java we have Django. Yes, for Java uses Django, and Python uses okay, Java uses Spring. I think it was Spring. Then Python uses Django. Sorry for the mix-up. So Java uses Spring, and then Python uses Django. Okay, so we'll go to the database. Database stores the data for web application. So the data, once I click on sign up and the server takes in this information, processes it, okay, everything is stored in the database. Okay, everything, the information I am sending, because basically I'm putting, when I click on sign up, I am putting it's called a put request. I'm making a request to store this information somewhere so that I can be able to, when I can be able to access information concerning that particular web application using that information I'm storing. Okay, basically that's what sign up does. Okay, so database stores the data for a web application. The data can be created, updated, deleted whenever the client requests. Okay, so I can query the information, basically get information, but that's not what database is for. Database basically is for creating, updating, and deleting. Okay, that's what we do. That's what we use the database for. Okay, so we have different types of database. We have SQL and NoSQL. In SQL, we have MySQL, and in NoSQL, we have MongoDB. Okay, in this course, Node.js course, in this cohort, we'll be making use of MongoDB as our database as we move forward, as we go into Node.js, and then we'll use MongoDB. Okay, so the next I want us to look at is a very, very integral part is the architecture of Node.js. Very important. Okay, Node.js architecture. Okay, Node.js architecture, that's the diagram below. That's the second diagram you can see. Okay, so these are the parts of the architecture. We have the requests, you have the Node.js server itself, which encapsulates the event queue, the thread pool, the event loop. Okay, and then we have external resources also. Okay, so I'll just go through what each part does. Okay, incoming for the request, we have incoming requests can be blocking, whether complex or non-blocking. That's simple. I already mentioned that earlier, but depending on the task that the user wants to perform in web application. So request is basically me, the client making a request to the server saying this is what I want to do. I want to get the number of employees that work for XYZ company. I want to store the user Samuel into the database of XYZ company. Okay, I want to be able to update the address of Samuel in the database of XYZ company. So those things are requests. Okay, so there are different types of requests. You have put requests, you have get requests, you have definitely you have the delete request. Okay, and I think these are the basically three major requests we'll be using throughout this program. Okay, the get request, the put request, and then the delete request. Okay, then the next part of Node.js architecture we have is the Node.js server. The Node.js server is a server-side platform that takes requests from users, processes those requests, and returns responses to the corresponding user. So basically, information goes from client server to database, database server to client. So yeah, it's in chemistry, they say it's both a forward reaction and a backward reaction. Okay, so basically forward and backward, client server database, database server client. Okay, and the event queue is a Node.js server that the event queue in a Node.js server stores incoming client requests and passes those requests one by one, that's one at a time, into the event loop, basically. Okay, and then we have the thread pool. The thread pool consists of all the threads available for carrying out some tasks that might be required to fulfill client requests. Okay, that is thread pool. Event loop indefinitely receives requests and processes them, and then returns the responses to corresponding clients. External resources are required to deal with blocking clients' requests. Okay. The next we will look at is okay. I think there's a typo here, but the next we'll be looking at is the application of Node.js. Okay, one of the applications of Node.js is the development of APIs. Okay, with Node.js you can develop APIs that can be used across all platforms or devices. Okay, one API used across all platforms and all devices. With Node.js, you can easily interact with databases. Okay, like I said, it's server side. You can't do the server side, but then you can interact with databases. Either it is SQL databases or no SQL databases. Okay, these are the basic applications of Node.js. But then let's go to the advantages of Node.js. You have a lot of libraries. A lot of libraries are valuable to those people that uses Node.js. I mean, and a lot of libraries is equals to efficiency. With a lot of libraries, it means there are not many things. Everything I want, basically, majority, 99% of the things I want to do on server side or on the web, it's available to me through via libraries. Okay, I may not need to create my own library. The library is already created, and Node.js is fast. The speed is enormous. Okay, and that's because it is lightweight, basically, and then it's easy to write. Just as JavaScript is easy to write, so is Node.js. Okay, another fun fact I want to incorporate here about Node.js is that 97% of applications we see on the web uses Node.js. 97, a whooping 97%. Okay, and it just tells you, goes to show you how far, okay, Node.js has come and how far Node.js is doing well. Okay, and this is based off statistics as of 7th of October, okay, 2022. I think, and that is basically today, as of today. The statistics is based off today. As of today, over 97% of applications you see, web applications you see online uses JavaScript. Okay, uses JavaScript. There are popular sites like Google, YouTube, Facebook, Baidu, Yahoo, 360, Amazon. They all use JavaScript. And you have also sites like Canva, Sheg, Canva.com, Sheg.com uses JavaScript. And when I mean JavaScript, is either they are using either server-side JavaScript or client-side JavaScript. Okay, so why not be a Node.js developer today? What is stopping you? What is basically stopping you from being a Node.js developer? It's easy to write, it's fun to write, it has a lot of speed, efficiency, okay, and it's one of the most popular server-side language you can find out there. Just as popular as JavaScript is, that's how popular Node.js is, okay. Fun to write, really fun to write. So I want to welcome you on board to be a Node.js developer, okay, and you can be able to build great stuff with your knowledge. Thank you, okay. And this is where I come to the end of today's session. In our form, there are really no questions on our form, so this will be the end of today's session. If you have any questions, you can just put it on the chat box, and I can just take like 2 or 3 questions, and that'll be it for today's session. Okay. Okay. Okay, I can see some comments on the chat box. Okay. JavaScript is single-threaded, yes. Okay. You say you can pronounce like ICMA, okay. Libraries are like utility codes that other people have written. You can just import them into your code and we use them exactly. Yes, and those are libraries. That's why I said it has a lot of libraries, and with libraries comes efficiency, saves time. It basically saves time, and saving time means it's making money for the company you're working for. Is making money for time is basically equals to money. For questions regarding grading, you should have used the form. Okay, I'm just taking questions concerning the presentation now. Any question concerning grading and all that, the person, you should have used the form. There's a form out there to put in your questions, and then when I come online for our office hours, I'll answer them. From henceforth, I will not be taking any questions apart from when I'm doing a presentation like this. I will not be taking questions about grading and tasks, that kind of questions. If they're not on the form, okay, I'll just stick to questions on the form or in the form. Okay. So someone is asking I should explain event loop. Okay, I think that's just the question I will just, once I'm done with explaining event loop, we would dispatch from there. Okay, so there are 2 types of requests, basically. We have blocking requests and non-blocking requests. Okay. So when a client is performing a task on the web, that goes as a blocking request. And when you say blocking request, it is complex requests. Non-blocking requests are those very, very simple requests, okay, tasks that you want your server to do. Okay, so what event loop basically does is it indefinitely receives requests. It processes them. When I mean processes them, after processing it, basically it can be able to divide the request into blocking or not blocking. Okay, in simple terms, it can divide the request into simple and complex. So it directs the simple complex request where it ought to go for processing. It directs the simple request where it ought to go for processing. But basically, it's in charge of processing requests. And then when the response is coming, we have request and response. But what is being sent to the server, what is being sent to the server and to the database is called request. When the database has stored it and is trying to report, okay, I have done this, so you told this database to store something, and it's like it has to tell you, okay, I have stored this information. I have stored Samuel as an employee of Google. Okay, I'll start Samuel's information as an employee of Google. It sends a request, or I was unable to do that, and this is the reason why. Okay, we have different types of response codes. Okay, we'll talk about that. I think by next week, or next 2 weeks, we'll talk about the response code and all that. Okay, but basically, those things, when it's coming back from the database to the server and then to the client, it's called response. When it's going from the client to server to database, it's called request. Okay, so basically, what the event loop does is to indefinitely receive requests and processes them, and then returns the responses to the corresponding client. So to that particular client that sent in the request. Basically, that's what event loop does. Okay, it basically controls and manages that whole process. Okay. Okay, so thank you so much for staying tuned to today's office hour. Our next office hour will be on Monday. Any other question that you have that you have not been able to fill in the form, you can ask them on the in our community Slack community channel. Okay, in our channel on Slack, and then you can tag me to the question, and I'll be when I'm available, I would respond to such questions. Basically, yes, I will respond to such questions today. Okay, thank you so much for staying to the end of this session. Have a nice day. Bye.